People always talk about like skills and how do I do that? They're always focused on the how, the how, the how. You kind of need to know the why, the philosophy behind it.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to the podcast from unknown to unforgettable. We got a super special treat in here today, folks. Super special treat. My good friend Josh Wiles. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast, brother.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Dude, totally, dude. So I thought that it's a must-have to have you on. We met at SWAT, Nate's event, Nate Offert's event, if you don't know who that is. And we met at this conference, but we talked a little bit before. He was helping me out a little bit on the Ultimate Agent, just with underwriting guides and all that. So that's how we got connected. And this dude is an absolute animal in terms of building a team, scaling a company. How many people have you built with your doing solar recently? What was that? What's your team at now?
I think in the last 4 weeks, we've added just over 130 new reps.
On your team, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is insane. So what's the magic sauce to that? Or what's your mindset going into that? Because I think a lot of people that are watching this podcast are trying to figure out how to build a team and how to build well. And
yeah,
you know how to do that. You've built, we were talking right before this, you've built like 6 different times, right? 6 or 7 different times.
Yeah. My biggest build was over the course of 4 years, 3.5, almost 4 years. I put 40,000 people in 7 countries into a deal, and we were selling skincare. Only thing I know about skincare is that my wife's lipstick tastes good. But yeah, we had 40,000, young entrepreneurs, man, just going out there and building a business, selling skincare. And that was a lot of fun. It's funny. It's like people always talk about like skills and how do I do that? They're always focused on the how, how do I do that? How do I do that? And I'm definitely going to go into how for sure today, if we have time.
Yeah.
But before we go into the how, you kind of need to know the why, the philosophy behind it. And, when I was brought into this industry, I was young. I was 25, not as young as you. I envy you, Johnny, because I wish I was, 20, 21 years old being introduced to this space. But I was 25 and I was a broke police officer. I was not out there winning friends and influencing people. I was, slamming their ass and throwing them in jail. So I wasn't a very positive guy. I wasn't a very, fun, happy guy. I didn't walk around with a smile so big I could eat a banana sideways like I do now. And I was introduced to the world of direct sales, direct to consumer, insurance, real estate, network marketing. And it was hard for me at first, Johnny. It really was, because I didn't have good relationships. I hadn't learned how to forge good relationships, and a philosophy. I had to kind of divorce myself from my old ways of thinking about life and people in general. And because I was messed up in the head, bro. I was messed up. I was coming off of 5 years being a police officer in one of the worst cities in the state where I live, and see some bad stuff, bro. And it shapes your mold of people. And I had a mentor that taught me a long time ago. He said, Josh, the reason most people don't win is because they're trapped behind the bars of beliefs that they were sold on as a young child that were never actually theirs. And that's true. We as human beings, we are trapped behind bars of beliefs that we were sold on as kids that were never ours to start with. And so what you have to do is, the first step is you have to divorce yourself from those old beliefs and adopt some new philosophies. And when it comes to team building, recruiting, staffing your business, whatever, when it comes to that, you really have to adopt a new philosophy. And the philosophy that was taught to me in the very beginning was, in order to recruit, in order to staff, in order to lead, obviously you got to have people willing to follow. And in order for people to be willing to follow you, you have to build influence. And I learned a long time ago in the very beginning, Johnny, that to build influence, it's 3 steps with people. So I'm going to go into my philosophy on how to build influence with people. 3 steps. Step 1, massive communication. You've heard the saying, out of sight, out of mind, right? You know, out of sight, out of mind. If you're not in their ear, if you're not on their screen, if you're not giving value, if you're not massively communicating with them, then you're going to lose that influence, because the bond is going to start to stretch and get further and further and further away. You know, you ever been out in the ocean and, you know, you're swimming out to one of those buoys, or at the lake, and you're swimming out to one of those buoys and it's windy and the waves are coming at you and you're swimming as hard as you can. And you just know that you're Michael Phelps in it right out there toward that buoy, but you look and it's like the buoy's getting further away. What's happening, right?
Yeah.
That's how it is with relationships and people. If you don't have that massive communication, you're not going to be able to build the influence. So step 1 is massive communication. Step 2, you got to be the most positive influence in their life. When I'm meeting somebody new, when I'm getting to know somebody, when I'm going down that path of discovery with someone, when I'm, you know, I call it the courtship process, you know, because God, I hope people aren't just going around, hey, you want to join my team? Hey, check this out. Hey, do you want, you know, hopefully you're not spamming people cold. You know, it's a process. You have to forge the relationship. With that massive communication comes in that courtship process. You got to be the most positive influence they've ever experienced. So my goal with somebody, every single time I'm in contact with them, I want to make them, I want to leave them feeling like $1 million. I want to make sure that when Johnny Nitafan gets off the phone with me, he feels better about himself, about his life, about his direction, about his purpose, about his family than he did when he first got on the phone with me. I'm leaving people better than when I found them. That's key. You know, I want people when they see my name pop up on their phone, I want people to smile. I want them to say, hell yeah, I'm taking that call. Oh shoot, let me see what Josh said, right? Because I've forged that positivity in their brain. Every conversation, massive communication, every conversation, I'm reinforcing that positivity, that love, that connection. I'm making them feel, when they get off the phone with me, I want them to have that big old smile so big they can eat a banana sideways. You know, I want to have them ready, so geeked up out of their mind sideways that they want to go punch a hole in the universe, right? So that's the key. There's massive communication, but then you also have to be the most positive influence. You got to make sure that you leave them feeling better than before you found them. And then number 3, you always got to do what you say you're going to do. That's key too. You know, I'm a stickler with that. If you call me and I say, hey, on a call, I'll call you back ASAP, I try my best to make sure I always end up calling them back. If somebody calls me and I say, you know, 5 minutes, I'm intentional about making sure I call them back within 5 minutes. Yeah. If I say I'm going to be there, I'm intentional about being there. So those 3 things, bro: massive communication, the most positive thing they've experienced, and always do what you say you're going to do. And I promise you, man, if you can practice that with people, put those things into practice, you'll build a solid influence you'll build an army.
Where'd you learn that stuff from? Was that just from like over time, or like was that from somebody, or like how'd you learn that?
I had a mentor that I met when I was 25. His name's Josh Denny. I've had a lot of great mentors, but this one specifically taught me that, the philosophies with people. You know, he taught me to believe in everybody, but count on no one. You know, he taught me that if you can be a collector of good people, you'll always be wealthy. He taught me that relationships are the new currency, Johnny. You know, relationships. And if you can learn how to build really strong, forge strong relationships with people, and that's how you build them, right? That's how you build a massive communication, most positive influence, always do what you say you're going to do. If you can build those massive influences with lots of people, then you'll be wealthy forever. And it doesn't even have to be transactional at first. I've got great relationships with, you know, dozens of strong, powerful leaders, strong, powerful businessmen and women and we've never actually done business together, and that's okay. And we may not, but the relationship's there. And I think that's important, is you take the end result, you take the transaction out of it. You love someone for that person, not for what they can do for you. And people feel it, bro. And they'll be drawn to you. They'll be attracted to you. So.
Yeah, dude, that's so good. That is so good. Cause I've honestly felt that from you as well. Just like always that positivity, that loving, that care, that genuine relationship. And so I appreciate that. But I think like that's a huge skill that people can implement into their relationships with people, whether that's their relationships with the people that they're working with, the relationships with their clients or customers, relationships with whoever it is. But building those, even those people that they're not working with, but in the business world, if you're able to have those relationships, you can go a long way. And so I love what you said about that. So how do you, what are some things that you listen to or read to be able to help your mind get into the right spot on a day-to-day basis?
A little bit of everything, honestly. Right now I'm reading Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. Right before that, I just finished The Four Agreements again. Don Miguel Ruiz, great book. Audios. I'm a big Art Williams fan, bro. Just Do It. I don't know if you've ever listened to any Art Williams, but he's got The Art of Recruiting. He's also got The Winning Edge. Those are great audios. I've listened to those a million times. Just, find something that vibes with you. Find something that aligns with your core values, your philosophies. It's so funny. It's like we live in such a wonderful, wonderful age,
Yeah.
It's when, Johnny, when I was a kid, like I was in the generation that got a chance to watch the evolution of the cell phone. I remember when I was raised by my grandparents, but I remember when they first got their cell phones, it was like, as big as my water bottle, glued to their cheek. And then they went to the car phone, the car phone and stuff. So, a lot of people say we live in the age of information. We live in the information age because the internet information is at our fingertips. This is our new encyclopedia, right?
Yep.
I would say we don't live in the information age. We live in the age of responsibility. This information that is at our fingertips at all times gives us that responsibility. We have a responsibility to go and find what it is that we're looking for, because the information is out there.
Yeah, dude.
And I can tell you right now, like I'm like Nate, I'm working with Nate Offert, my mentor. And what this guy's been able to accomplish and what this guy's been able to create over the last handful of years is second to none. It's nothing less than extraordinary. I wouldn't be partnered, in this space with period, if it wasn't for Nate and what I've seen him do and how I see him operate. But, Nate's told me stories about when he first got started. There was no digital leads. There was no virtual. There was no Zoom presentations. It was beating the streets, going and driving 2 hours to an appointment only for them not to show up or only for them not to answer the door. And then he's parking at a Taco Bell parking lot trying to, make more dials to fill that calendar because he's hours from his house. Right. I think to myself, holy cow, how much easier do we have it now? That's why I say that we live in the age of responsibility.
Yeah.
If you're over the age of 18 and you're struggling financially, something's wrong with you, baby. You need to get after it because the information's out there. You need to step up and find the information, take responsibility, extreme ownership, take the responsibility. We live in the age of responsibility. So for me, I'm intentional about my time. I'm responsible with my with my growth, and the information's out there. I could go all day. We could spend the next 5 hours going over great audios and great books. But
dude, that's so good. Yeah, I like that. With Nate? What are the biggest things that you've learned that you've taken and really taken as your own and really implemented into your life? Whether that's selling, recruiting, building, whatever that looks like. You've done that stuff before, but what are some things that you've taken from him? As a lot of people, I really believe probably are asking the same question.
You know, it's funny, like, of all the things, of all the value, I mean, Nate's like one of those endless, like, he's like Niagara Falls of value. You know what I'm saying? Like, the dude just have you ever seen Niagara Falls in person? Like, if you've never seen it in person, you're missing out, because Niagara Falls is like one of the things you need to see in person. I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, holy cow, where is all this water coming from? And where does it go? Like, you know, when I first started hanging out with Nate and really started getting to know him, it was like Niagara Falls. Holy cow, where does all this value come from? And where does it all go? You know, like, the dude has so much value, it's not even funny. But for me, Nate is the perfect embodiment of the saying, and I'm sure, you know, all your listeners, all the viewers here, I'm sure you guys have heard the saying, how you do anything is how you do everything. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. Nate is like the perfect embodiment of that. And I had heard that for years in my career, but I had never actually met someone that embodied that in every aspect of his life. Like, I imagine, you know, I just imagine Nate getting up in the morning and making his bed, and it's almost like militant about making his bed. And there's probably, you know, sparrows dancing around his room and butterflies flapping their wings, and the sheets are just spinning through the air like some type of Harry Potter magician stuff. Like, that would be Nate making his bed. Like, the dude is so intentional about everything that he does. Like, when I say the way you do anything is the way you do everything, that's Nate Offer, bro. And he came at a perfect time in my life, and I needed that, you know? And so, I've that's been the biggest thing that I've learned from Nate. And I think it's priceless. It's priceless.
Dude, that's so good. It's funny because I remember you on the panel at that conference. And one thing that you said really stuck out to me that I'll never forget. And you said, when the student is ready, I actually used this quote yesterday, when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Yeah.
Dude, that's so good. I literally used it yesterday talking to somebody, and I'm like, because of that. And I'm like, that is so good.